Hello, I'm Tanya Bahardian. I'm the co-chair of 100 More Homes Penticton.
Well, this is the second time being able to speak with you. Our first time, you brought up Phil Collins. Do you want to talk to me about why that was something that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, the night before I was thinking about, well, first of all, I'm a huge Phil Collins fan.
Okay.
And, but this song, Another Day in Paradise, is really haunting. And when I think about the time in which the song came out, was probably 80s, now I'm dating myself, but, I was thinking about when I heard the song for the first time, big cities, huge cities where, people were struggling with housing for various reasons, but fewer people. And the song was just haunting to me, his words just talking about the people who are struggling and, people missing out on seeing their humanity. And so when I hear that song, I see people crossing the street and people ignoring them, and they've got their belongings, and how erased and unseen and unvaluable they must feel. And it just breaks my heart when I see people who are really struggling, not feeling like they're worth anything. And we reinforce it by not meeting their eye, by not greeting them, and by not making them feel like they have a place in the world.
Yeah, because in the song, it has this lyric of this woman on the street calling out to this person.
Sir, can you help me?
Yeah, and he doesn't respond. He keeps on walking.
Yes.
And something that I kind of took away from the song was, how can I not be that person walking away, but instead be the person who's turning around?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit what 100 More Homes is?
Yeah, 100 More Homes is a collaborative of both government and non-government organizations in the community. And what I would say at the heart of what we do is we collaborate around ensuring that there's a reasonable path to housing for everyone who needs it, and for everyone, for all people. And so we are really looking at the different organizations who comprise the table to look at the whole housing continuum, including supportive housing, shelter housing, affordable housing, market, the whole range of housing.
Yeah, something I was taken by is I think for the general public, they think about maybe shelters specifically for housing, but what about those affordable housing opportunities as well? So that whole continuum.
Yes, and the continuum is really important because when you think about people who are currently unhoused, and when you have shelter spaces, when the shelter spaces are at capacity because supportive housing is full, and supportive housing is full because there's no next step. I've often said sort of the bridge between supportive housing and then full market housing is a big chasm. And there needs to be the space in between to help people take those steps forward in their lives.
Yeah, well, I've introduced it, at least in this project, like a stepping ladder.
Yeah.
And we have step 1, which is the shelter, and we have step 3, supportive housing, and step 4, market housing. But without that second step, it's quite vulnerable making that jump.
Yes, the gaps are, the spaces in between are big. And if we fail to meet people where they're at and, guide them along, get alongside them for the next step, it's challenging. It's challenging for any one of us.
Yeah.
Well,
you said that 100 More Homes is mostly in the Okanagan?
It's mostly, so 100 More Homes Penticton is really launched as a Penticton-based entity, and really we were supported by the United Way. We continued to be supported by the United Way, but in 2016, United Way came to us in Penticton, and it was a group of us who were regularly meeting to discuss various things in community, and said, you know, we think that there is a wave of what's happening across the province coming towards Penticton, and you know, we'd like to see the community prepared and organized, and we would be willing to provide some backbone support to help you get organized around it. And so that's how United Way sort of helped us launch officially in 2016.
Yeah, and you said there's potential to expand because there's been some really great stories coming out of 100 More Homes, right?
We have gotten a fair bit of attention, you know, across the province, but also regionally. And we have made a few presentations also to the regional district of the South Okanagan-Similkameen. You know, when you are adjacent to smaller communities and you are a larger community, we have to work together around resources and supports in order to make sure that we can meet the needs of people. You know, some of the smaller communities have people also who are in need of supports, but they aren't necessarily in their community. So we need to work, you know, really in step with one another to make sure that we can meet people where they're at.
Yeah, it seems like collaboration is in short supply at the moment, but it's so needed, especially when it comes to such a difficult problem of unhoused and homelessness.
Yeah, and I would say that in Penticton, collaboration has been the cornerstone of how we've achieved all the things that we have so far. And I do think it's in short supply, especially when everything is in short supply. People are looking around at getting their needs met. But I can say that this community has been incredible in the way that it's showed up. Not only the organizations who bring forth the resources that they can and that they have to ensure that we do the best that we can with what we have, but also any time that that 100 More Homes has put out a call to community, they always answer. And I know it's been overwhelming to the organizations that have sort of held up their hand and say we need this, but also to the people that those organizations serve who really benefit from the community's generosity.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about answering the call. We have the tiny homes proposal. Council has postponed it. There's more information sessions. What would you say for this, our public community? Like, how can we answer the call for this project?
Well, it's a tough one, right? Because there's many voices and many perspectives. And, you know, I really am a strong believer personally that when you hear all the perspectives and you include them in the thinking, you're going to get a better result and more buy-in. And that's important. So process is important, and hearing people's concerns is really important. That said, I think also people, you know, one of the things, sort of back to Phil Collins, in the song he says, you know, think twice. And, you know, sometimes people think about something once a certain way, and I hope when they think twice, there's new information that they can consider and new perspectives that they can consider. And I think on this project, in particular, we need to make sure that we think through all of the things that people have brought forward, and that we have answers for it. And I think we do.
Yeah, because there is a wide array of concerns on this project, but there's also a lot of opportunities. What opportunity do you think tiny homes provides for Penticton?
I think it provides tremendous opportunity. I think, you know, I spoke a little bit earlier about the notion of flow and movement through a continuum of supports. And so I really believe that this project, the Tiny Homes project, adds another option for people and for service providers. When people are ready to move in one of the other types of housing, or, you know, and there isn't a space, we don't get the flow. So I think this is sort of one of the pieces that we've been looking for in terms of the continuum of supports of housing.
Yeah, like one of the misconceptions that I hope to be able to address in the project is that the individuals in the encampment are going to be going into stage 1 and not straight to tiny homes. So it's that flow you were talking about.
Yeah, I think there's a piece around flow, and then I think there's also a piece about us really understanding the needs of who's out there. You know, and they're not just in that one location, they're in other places too. And so, you know, I think when I think about the project, you know, I think we're looking at folks who are ready to take that next step in their lives. They're ready to access some of the supports and resources that would be available for them. That might be someone coming from the shelter. It might be someone coming from, they've been living in their RV.
Yeah.
You know, there are, you know, a variety of different scenarios where people may be ready to have that kind of space for themselves.
Yeah, I read some of the comments about children and seniors, and then looking at, like you said, the comment, it's not just people from the encampment, it might be people who are on pension. What is something that's new about our current predicament about the unhoused and our situation in homelessness? How is this evolving?
Yeah, it's really, at One Sky, we actually probably get at least one call a week. We provide a lot of services for seniors, and we probably get at least one call a week where we have someone who's been living in their place for, I don't know, 15, 20 years at a very reasonable rate, and now they're getting rent-evicted or evicted for another reason, and all they can find is, you know, something for $16.50, and they bring in a total of $18.50. You know, tell me how that works.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, right? And so we're seeing more scenarios like that. We're seeing more scenarios for families where they're trying to fit into a smaller space with more kids because it's more affordable. It's not more appropriate, but it's more affordable.
Yeah, like that part of, it's not just that, I guess, unhoused people may be a concern to seniors, it's that seniors are sometimes part of the unhoused community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely they are.
Yeah, so I guess returning back to 100 More Homes, what's kind of something that you see inspiring about the organization as it's going forward?
You know, I really, you know, the thing that I feel most passionate about with 100 More Homes is collaboration. When I think about the projects that we've taken on, there's been so many organizations involved in executing on every single one. And, you know, if somebody said, oh, call out one organization there that's been a superstar, they're all superstars in their own way. You know,
we're an all-star team.
Yeah, it's having all the right people with the right, well, I don't want to say right because that means that there's wrong, but people with good intentions about what they're trying to accomplish and how they're trying to lift up people who need the support.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think that is what really grounds me, especially from an empathy standpoint, is seeing someone and saying they have the best intentions and they're trying to act with good intentions.
Yes.
Whether that is people in our community who maybe don't have the same perspectives on the unhoused community, maybe haven't talked to, again, that woman who's calling out, doesn't necessarily have that life experience. In that is kind of like an educational piece you think might be missing in this conversation we're having with Penticton's community at large?
Well, I really think, you know, if people listen to some people's stories and heard about how they've arrived at the place that they are, they might think differently about who the people are. And I was thinking, have lots of conversations inside my organization because people are curious about what's happening in community. Tanya, what do you think is going to happen with this project, and all those kinds of things. And I often have a conversation with folks that inside my organization where they're all saying, that could be us. Like we are, the line is very fine of what separates us, and which side of the equation we get to be on. And sometimes it's a bit of luck.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bit of something that people didn't even think about that happened or didn't happen for someone that just changed everything. And so I think one of the perceptions that I feel needs to be challenged is that people are choosing this and making bad choices. And when I think about some of the choices that they have, they're making the choices, out of a very narrow amount of options or none.
Yeah.
And I think if you removed choice from each one of us, we would rail against that.
Yeah, and I think it's this feeling that we need to have some sort of control. I think it's built in all of us, and maybe seeing someone who seems to have a lack of control maybe builds a sort of empathy barrier there. But I guess turning to kind of local businesses, I know there are some local businesses who said that there might be potential concerns for the businesses that you work around. You don't have to specifically name them, but what has been your relationships, especially when some of these individuals bring problems? What has been your kind of relationship with some of these businesses?
What has been my relationship with some of the businesses? For the most part, I think the businesses, at least where I am in the downtown, feel since the winter shelter, last year's winter shelter, opened, and that gave people some options. I think things improved in the downtown, and so where my business is located, people, I think, feel there's less interaction with people who are unhoused. That said, the piece that you were talking about around empathy, I remember when I lived in Kamloops, and where my organization was, where I parked my car at the back, there was a tiny overhang over the doorway, and this couple stayed there every night. And my parking spot was right in front of that door. And the first time I pulled up, I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Well, you're going to be you, and you're going to say good morning and greet them. And, what would happen then in the mornings when I would arrive, they would hear my car and they'd jump up and, good morning, Tanya, and, we'll get out of your way right away, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's just two humans who were, found themselves in this most unfortunate situation and were struggling to find their path forward, and we were able to get them connected to some things after a while, but it required building a relationship that involved trust. Think about it, any one of us doesn't blindly enter into relationships without having one and building some trust, and such an important part of supporting people in their journey is letting them know that you're here to help, and you're gonna be by their side.
And that faith component too, of bringing back in good intentions, saying that person has good intentions, I'm gonna give them faith, build trust with me. That's a huge thing.
It's a huge thing. Hope and expectancy that things will get better are two of the biggest like extra therapeutic factors out there. It's just if you don't have hope,
Got much of anything.
yeah, and if you don't think things will get better, that's a tough spot to be
Yeah.
in.
Especially right now, there is a gloom, I think, everywhere, but hope is so needed.
Yes,
And this project gives me hope.
it does for me too. I can't tell you how lifted up and hopeful I was at the thought that this project was right around the corner. And I know even when it gets a green light, it's still a while to sort of put something together like that. But I imagine myself in the shoes of others who were perhaps unhoused or not in the right kind of housing right now, thinking about this, and it gave me hope. And I thought, imagine what it must do for them.
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that, imagine hearing that it doesn't go for them. What does that do? And that was when the bottom sort of dropped out for me, where that was a challenging thing to take in.
Yeah. I think for me, building on that point, I think it starts with one project.
Yeah.
It just starts with one win.
Yes.
And I think momentum and with hope is also recurring amounts of optimism.
Yes.
And just strung together.
Can I go back to the business piece for a little bit?
I would love to. Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the things that, you asked what 100 More Homes was about, what we did well. One of the things that I think we do really well is engagement. Mm-hmm. And so, when we did the project last year around the winter shelter, mm-hmm. One of the things that we set up right away was a regular meeting time. Mm-hmm. And we invited business and business owners or representatives from business to be a part of that conversation. Mm-hmm. And we did that so we could hear in real time what what, if anything, concerns were arising, what was the nature of them, mm-hmm. and how could we work together. So we had fire and police and bylaw, we had service providers, we had other government people mm-hmm. there, city folks, and business representatives. And so when things came up, we just all brainstormed, we could do this, or this should be the response to that, or this is the place where you need to call. And so because of our coordination of our efforts and engaging and availing ourselves of the information in real time, mm-hmm. we could act very quickly and mm-hmm. effectively and take care of the bulk of those concerns. Mm-hmm. And, that I think helped with success. We also engaged with the neighborhood around. So we held 3 or 4 open house forums where people could come and express any experiences they were having, thoughts. It gave us a chance also to share, program model and service delivery and what that looked like, and to close the gap between what people think mm-hmm. and what actually is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so that also was very, very helpful. And what I found was at the very first one, afterwards we were all having our little debrief and thinking, fasten our seatbelts because there was a lot of pushback, concern, and mm-hmm. people raising and again, sometimes it's fear of the unknown mm-hmm. or, just not knowing how things will go, and that's real, Yeah. But it was like, okay, well, we need to really be engaged around this mm-hmm. in order to also meet people in the community where they're at around what they know and understand mm-hmm. and what their real concerns are. And over time with those forums, what happened was people coming forward, and it was the complete opposite of that very first one, where people were talking about, I raised this and this got taken care of really quickly. Mm-hmm. I took a walk over here and met some folks. It was really interesting to learn their story. It wasn't what I thought. Building that bridge of human to human and mm-hmm. understanding the world is the way that the other person understands the world.
And from my understanding, whatever contractor will be in there or operator,
Yeah.
100 more homes will be in relationship with that provider for the tiny homes?
Well, this might be one of the spots where BC Housing will make the selection of the operator.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that there will be some partnership with the city of Penticton around that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we would hope that the chosen operator would be someone from our current network because
Mm-hmm.
we're able to support them best.
Mm-hmm.
And we know them. And
But even if it isn't,
but even if it isn't,
yeah.
you know, this is a welcome space to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, engage with others.
Yeah, I'm sure whoever the operator is, like 100 more homes will be there to greet them in that space and that experience. And I guess to kind of round us off, like if you were going to kind of talk to, say, the Wiltse community and the local businesses around it and just give some assurance when it comes to, like you said, like what you've done is build these relationships with
Yeah.
other businesses, organizations. I love the idea of coming in and actually being able to like say, here's my concern and getting feedback. I think we live in a world where feedback is not always recurring.
Yes.
So to feel heard, how can we encourage and reassure that Wiltse and the community around this spot will be able to be heard in the future?
Well, those types of engagements, I think, are critical.
Mm-hmm.
And what's critical about it is that people bring forward real concerns, the
Mm-hmm.
real things that have happened. You know, like that process I described before, is it started with people's worries about the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can start to deal with what is the known
Mm-hmm.
and respond to it and deal with that in a good way and effectively,
Mm-hmm.
I think that also builds trust with neighborhoods and
Mm-hmm.
people in those neighborhoods. And, you know, I would see an engagement process like that being critical to the success. That there be a mechanism to get the feedback to continue to do better and to address people's concerns.
Yeah, and I love the piece of like real, because I think so much we can kind of devolve into our worries and our kind of nightmares of what could happen instead of people actually in the spot, like good intentions of seeking out independence, seeking out market housing, trying to not just stop in transitional housing but get to a spot where there's a level of independence. What we need is the confidence and the hope. Yeah, it seems like 100 more homes is such a foundational piece of building that confidence and that hope.
Yeah, I really do feel as a collective, we're stronger together. We're better to speak with one voice, and you know, not be divided on it, on the issues. And it's very. I think about it as a movement. You know, it's 100 more homes is a movement more than it is a. I mean, we're actually a collective of various organizations.
Yeah, and just to kind of finish off this interview, talking about that movement, where's that movement going, and how can the Penticton community support you?
We've got a strategic plan that looks at building out the housing continuum. We've got strategic directions also around education and community awareness. We've got, you know, initiatives around telling real stories about real people, respectfully, of course, but really raising awareness around people's experiences and their stories. We have strategic directions around data collection. So one of our upcoming projects is, it's actually called the Alignment Project. And we've actually been working at something like this for a number of years. If I had to sort of distill it down, it's about having a by name list that actually knows the real people, their real stories, and their real needs. And by having good data like that, we become more making decisions by the data as opposed to you know, what we think. And we make, and maybe all of those things are right, but we can say, based on the data, this project should be first because it's the most needed. So So that's one of our upcoming projects, and we're really proud of that because we're the only, there's I think 11 communities that are this alignment project, which involves federal, provincial, and local governments. And Penticton was chosen. The 10 other communities are what's called reaching home communities, which means they receive government funding to have a collaborative entity to steer a number of projects that they have some resources for. We've done it without that, and so people have noticed that we're a particularly organized community in spite of the fact that we don't have reaching home dollars. So that we've been chosen as the one community outside of the reaching home communities to be a part of this alignment project.
I mean, I think that's something to be hopeful for.
Yeah, it does. When we were working with the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness for a number of years, and they're also involved in this project again now, we were working through a by name list, trying to achieve, what they would call quality data score, and there were a few missing pieces that were mostly not because the organizations weren't willing to, but because of different government systems that weren't in place. And so this alignment project actually is bringing all of those pieces together, from the government side to enable organizations to have the right tools so that we can have that effective list. So that project is up and coming, and one that we are incredibly proud to be a part of.
Well, that's amazing. I'm going to follow along with that. But I just want to say, as someone who gets to work collectively with you, I'm hopeful, I'm proud, and I'm really looking forward to the future.
Me too.
So thank you so much for doing this interview.
Yeah,
and
my pleasure.
Hope to talk soon, and hopefully we get some more hope in the future here. Fingers crossed. All right, awesome.